and welcome to our Legacy Travel Top 5. This is the first time we've done this in a little while, so we're excited to get back at it. And so we're going to be talking today about our trip to Ireland. And I have with me Miss Tara and Katie. And so we went on our President's Club trip, which is for the top Legacy Travel producers. And I'm going to kick it off, if y'all don't mind, with my number 5. And I'm going to cheat right off the bat and say that this isn't on my top 5, but just that the number 1 for President's Club for me is getting to know these guys better, and they're plus ones. But I'm guessing that y'all don't really care about that because these guys aren't going to be traveling with y'all when you go traveling. So I didn't put that on my list, but that is my number 1. So for me, my number 5 that I love most about our Ireland trip is going to be a show we went to called Celtic Nights. And it doesn't have to be exactly that one. But this was basically a show where they had Irish music, we call it Irish folk music, is that a good description? And they had dancing. I like the folk music more than the dancing, but both great, it's interesting to me because with some other cultures, I'm not as big on the music, but this, I really loved it. And you know, their songs tell a story, and I really loved the show, Celtic Nights. How about you? Where's your number 5, Karen?
That's also my number 5.
Oh, look at that. We haven't compared lists. We didn't compare lists.
Yeah, I know. My husband actually got up on the stage, and I was laughing hysterically. He was having so much fun dancing with the professional dancers up there, and it was...
And he held his own. He did very well.
He did very well. And so, yeah, that would be definitely one of my highlights of the trip.
Loved it.
So my number 5 kind of ties in with that. I'm saying pub culture, specifically how it links with traditional music. Whether you go to Celtic Nights or one of the pubs in one of the towns, odds are you'll hear traditional music. I liked Celtic Nights because we got to hear a lot of that folk music. Sometimes the music in the pubs is just instrumental, you don't have the singing, but I love how music is so important to Irish culture. When I was in Galway, we ran into a stag party at the pub one night, which is a bachelor party, and one of the guys was just holding a guitar, and they were singing traditional Irish songs, they were singing in Gaelic. And then someone walked in, saw the guitar, and said, "Oh, hey, can I play something?" You were total strangers. So that's something I love about the culture there.
Oh, that's fantastic. Number 4. Tara, what is your number 4?
Let's see. Okay, number 4 I have exploring the grounds of the Blarney Castle.
Okay.
Of course, the Blarney Stone is kind of a famous thing, but my favorite thing about that property was definitely just exploring all the gardens and the secret passageways and beehives, and I don't know, it was just so stunningly beautiful. They keep it gorgeous at the Blarney Castle grounds.
And they had this not exhibit, it's part of the grounds. It's like, okay, these are all really dangerous plants. Come look at them.
Poison garden.
Poison garden. Holy cow, dude. But yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so Bonnie, is your number 4? What's your number 4?
So my number 4 were the I guess the ability to stay in castle or manor hotels.
Okay.
We stayed in Dromulland Castle, which is a former castle, and it was just gorgeous. Like Blarney Castle, the grounds there were beautiful. I also had the chance to stay in the Cashel Palace Hotel in Cashel, which is a former private estate. The Guinness family actually lived there at one point. My room was in the former stables. So if you're looking for history and looking for a unique lodging option, Ireland is just rich with hotels that are former estates and castles.
And you love that hotel. That was your favorite,
my gosh,
right?
I love the Cashel Palace. I love Dromulland as well. Both of them, they're different because the grounds, of course, are bigger at Dromulland, but Cashel is fantastic.
Right. My number 4 is something that Kathy and I did on this tour, and we've done it before, other tours, and I think it's a great idea wherever you go. We did a food tour, and our food tour was done by Delicious Dublin Tours, and the young lady owns his name is Ketty, Ketty. It was a blast going around different places that she's picked out to try little sample food of different things that Ireland are known for. A great time. Took about 3 hours, and just a blast. We did Irish coffee. We had a place that showed us that let us try 3 different types of stews, all kinds of stuff like that. Really, really great time for that.
I'll have to do that next time. I love a good food.
It was really good. Number 3, Katie. What's your number 3?
Well, this is perfect. my number 3 is actually the food in Ireland.
Okay, nice tie-in.
I think that Ireland sometimes gets a bad rap for food. People think it's just potatoes and, I don't know, lamb. And yes, there are a lot of comfort foods like shepherd's pie and beef stew, but you have excellent seafood. Don't forget, Ireland is an island. They have great seafood, and it's not just fish and chips. There are so many fine dining options. Kinsale is one of the foodie towns just outside of Cork. If you're looking for some fine dining options, there are Michelin-starred restaurants that do prepare traditional Irish ingredients and dishes. So don't snooze on the food in Ireland.
And nothing wrong with the fish and chips. I
Nothing
love
at all.
those
Oh my
a
gosh,
lot.
so good.
Not at all.
I love that very much. My number 3 is a crossover with Miss Tara. It's Blarney Castle. Kissing the Blarney Stone itself, fine, whatever. Actually, you had a line to go up to the Blarney. I didn't know the Blarney Stone was at the top of the castle, but it is, and it was fascinating going through that castle. The narrow stairways, really interesting. You had great views, and like Tara said, you see all kind of cool things there. I like Blarney Castle for the area around it. Blarney Stone, take it or leave it, but the castle itself and the grounds were cool.
I agree. Let's see, what are we on, 3?
3.
I have drinking Guinness and singing songs with the locals.
Okay,
So,
that's very similar
yeah,
to hers.
tying into the pub culture, it's just so fascinating there. It's definitely different than the bars here in the United States. I mean, it's just part of their culture, you know. They go there, everybody's not on their cell phones and they're talking, and the live music is fun. One of my favorites, I think, was the Oliver Plunkett Bar, which was in Cork. I just love the vibe of that place, and my husband and I enjoyed the whole pub culture.
And from what I understand, the Guinness is different over there, tasting wise.
Very much so. It was a lot lighter and more delicious.
Yeah.
So is the pub culture, the drinking, and the cartwheels. That was your number 3. Is that right?
Yes, we'll go with that.
Okay, very good. I think it's number 2. I think I'll lead on number 2 here. Okay, so again, we didn't compare this. My number 2 is pubs, and I've kind of cheated a little bit. I put a couple of things on here that part of the pub culture, but the people are so nice in Ireland in general, and the pubs specifically, talking about the Gavin Jar. And I had the good food, the pub food, which is the comfort food. So the pubs were a blast, a lot of fun. Weeping Author whiskey, very good at the pubs. But yeah, I just loved the pub culture. What's your number 2?
I like it. My number 2 was exploring the cliffs of Moher. Am I saying it right? Moher?
Yeah, close enough. No, it's fine. Yeah, more.
But yeah.
What is in the Princess Bride? It's the
the Cliffs of Insanity.
Cliffs of Insanity, yes,
Princess
from
Bride.
the Princess Bride. But yeah, no, it was gorgeous. It was a lot more to explore than I thought. I thought it was just going to be like one little area that you go up and then that's the end, but there's a long walkway all along the cliffs, and it was just, I don't know, it was stunning. And we got very lucky. The weather played very nice because it was pretty cloudy and rainy for most of the week, and it was like God knew that we needed a clear day that day, and it was perfect.
It's a great one.
So my number 2 also has to do with scenery. I jetted off from the rest of the group and drove around the Dingle Peninsula instead of doing the Ring of Kerry. And Dingle Peninsula, that was definitely my number 2. If you drive it yourself, it's kind of like driving the road to Hana, because some of the areas are just one way. They're so narrow they can only fit one car. I like that you are along the coast more than you are with the Ring of Kerry, especially if you're doing Sleigh Head Drive. It's just absolutely stunning views. You can see some areas where they filmed Star Wars, if you're a Star Wars fan. You drive by beaches. We saw surfers, which I don't think anyone thinks of when they picture Ireland, but it's just really, really breathtaking views the entire way.
And to be clear, you didn't do the Ring of Kerry. You done it 2 or 3 times before.
Yes,
right?
To be fair, I have been to Ireland several times before. This was my 4th trip. I'd done the Ring of Kerry twice. Pub culture is always going to be number 1, but I was trying to pick new things specific for this trip. And yes, I wanted to see one of the different peninsulas. So if you've done the Ring of Kerry, or you are looking for an option where you might not see as many people or as many big buses and motor coaches, the Dingle Peninsula is for you.
And number 1, what's your number 1?
Number 1 is by far the Dromoland Castle, which was how we ended the trip, and it was just perfect. I loved exploring all the grounds. We got a golf cart and just kind of went around and explored the gardens and the secret little passageways, and I don't know, it was just pure perfection. And it's officially the oldest place I think I've ever stayed. It dates back to the 1500s, so it was just iconic. You can't really tell though in the hotel rooms that it's that old, so they've done such a great job on keeping everything up to date and more contemporary and modern, but still holding on to that classic traditional castle vibe. So it was just perfect. That was definitely a highlight, number one for me.
Okay. What's your number one?
So I hate to break away from the group again, but I did get to stay in Ireland a little bit longer. So my number one was taking a day trip out to the Aran Islands.
Okay.
They are off the west coast. There are 3 islands. We went to Inishmore, which is the biggest one, and I was able to take a ferry straight from Galway into Inishmore. It just has that wild, ancient Irish feel. There aren't a ton of people who live in the Aran Islands or on the Aran Islands. We rented bicycles and drove around. The island's like 6 miles by 2 miles, so it's really easy to get around. They have old fortresses. If you remember seeing some of those stone walls out in the western part of Ireland, the island is just covered with those, and they have, again, dramatic cliffs like the Cliffs of Moher. They don't have walls there though that prohibit you from getting close, so if you want to, you could swan dive right off them.
Well, it's not.
But it was just a really, really interesting part of the country to see. And on our way back, the ferry actually drove went right by the Cliffs of Moher, so I got to see them from 2 perspectives, on top and then just sailing by, and that was really cool. Yeah.
My number one wasn't very close by far. It was the Dublin Castle. Just like you, great place to stay. Some of the tours will have that be your last night in Ireland. I really think it needs to be 2 nights. It's not cheap, it is expensive, but you really need 2 nights at Dublin Castle. I feel like amazing place to stay. Loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. To wrap up, the company we use for this trip is Brendan Tours. We highly recommend them. They are based in Dublin. They're in Ireland itself, as far as they have a Dublin team there. Other thing that I had on my list, but I decided not to put on top 5 just because it isn't unique to Ireland. We had a private driver, and that made such a huge difference.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, love Mike. But yeah, if you can save up, get a private driver, it's a whole different ballgame doing that. So anyway, thank y'all for joining us. Loved our Ireland trip, and I hope y'all can go soon. Bye.